Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, author of Visualizing Happiness in Every Area of Your Life and host of this podcast, Incredible Life Creator. And today I have with me Mr. Daniel Gomez. Hey, Daniel.
Dr. Kimberly, how you doing today?
I am doing great and so happy to have you on. And I love your background, and that's like a natural atrium background. So people are watching on YouTube, they can see it. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, well, that's my baby plant out there. It's actually almost a 40-foot giant fishtail palm in the atrium that we have behind us, and that is not a back screen. That's actually our glass window there. So it's a beautiful view that we get from our office up here and close by the airport in San Antonio. And I'm excited to be here and add value to your audience. So thank you so much for just having me on your show.
Yeah. And just so people know you, I'm just going to read a short bio. So, Daniel Gomez is an award winning keynote speaker, business coach, executive coach, corporate trainer, and podcast of the year recipient. Daniel speaks and coaches at events all over the world. His passion is to elevate businesses and entrepreneurs to achieve their true potential through their training and coaching programs. Daniel has empowered his clients to achieve epic success and in their professional lives. He is an international best-selling author. Daniel's book, The Makings of a Millionaire Mind, was published to give people the right approach, the right attitude, the right heart, and become a millionaire God's way so they don't self-implode and self-destruct. I want to hear more about that. So,
Yeah.
your story. I mean, people don't just, say, I think I'm going to be a national speaker, and people start calling them and say, hey, come and talk to me in Japan. So, how did it all start out?
Well, people laughed at me. People, people are gonna. That's one thing I want to tell your audience right away, Dr. Kimberly, is people are gonna laugh at you before they applaud you. Let me say it again. People are gonna laugh at you before they applaud you. And my story goes like this. Daniel Gomez was just a car guy that ran a Chevrolet dealership for 13 years in the automotive industry for almost 20 years, 2 decades. And in 2017, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer and life just got flipped upside down. And for the first time, Dr. Kimberly, as a grown man, I was lost. My title couldn't save me. My bank account couldn't save me. The Rolex watches couldn't save me. The sports cars couldn't save me. It was me, my wife, and we had to rely on our faith. And by God's grace, I'll never forget the day she called me to tell me she was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. She got depressed on me, had a double mastectomy in that process, and I had to make a decision as a grown man. Was I going to hire somebody to take care of her, or was I going to man up and honor my wife and take care of her myself? So I left the automotive industry with the intentions of going back. And little did I know that once all the busyness of life is gone, right? You think of most Americans, they're always busy, 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 right? Striving, doing, striving, doing. And the moment you sit back and you have nothing to do, all these things surface because you suppressed them for so long.
Mhm.
And it was me and the man in the mirror that I didn't like at that moment. And man, I thought my wife needed help because she was going through her own breast cancer journey, 8 major surgeries. But the guy in the mirror had to deal with a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of resentment, a lot of unforgiveness. A lot of that was towards myself. And then I heard a whisper, and this is where people laughed at me. I heard God say, I want you to go be a motivational speaker and help the people in the world. And who leaves a who leaves a $250,000 a year job to go speak, follow a dream that's not real to say to many people, and become a motivational speaker at 44 years old? And that's exactly what I did. And here we are now.
Wow. So, when you decided that, um, or when you got the whisper and you're like, this is what I need to do, how did you even know where to start or where to go? Because there's a lot of people out there, they just love to be a motivational speaker or any kind of speaker at all. But, I've talked to friends who saying, I'm looking for speaking engagements, and I'm going, okay. So obviously there's people who get them and people who don't. So how did you start?
I didn't know. I had no idea. I think the first thing I want your audience to understand is As human beings, we want the how. We want the how before we take that step. We want the pathway, right? We want the walkway from this side of the building to this side of the building. How do I get from this side to that side? How do I get from where I'm at to become a motivational speaker? And then I'll go. It doesn't work that way. And I think when you truly commit, when you're not curious, you're committed. I was serious, right? Not curious. I think I just believed when God put that in my heart. My wife doesn't tell me, she didn't tell me this back in 2017. It's almost 7 years ago. In January, it'll be 7 years that we actually, my business got established. But she thought I was crazy. She thought, I'm over here freaking double mastectomy, tubes out of my body, and you're gonna be a what? And I just believed it. The belief was so I believed what God put in my heart. And I think because I believed it, I put that intention out there in the world and I started attracting opportunities. And then one day, an advertisement came up for John Maxwell in Orlando, John Maxwell team, and I wasn't working right. It was like $4 or $5,000 to go, and I just went because they had a speaker lane, and I said, well, let me see, right? Had no idea what it was. Meanwhile, I was scared as crap because I didn't have any, right? I had a little bit of a nest egg, but it wasn't where we're at today. But no revenue coming in, nothing coming in, and I bet on myself with a $5,000 ticket, bought the airfare, and then after that, I said, "Well, this is going to be in a couple of weeks, right?" It was still like 6 weeks away, maybe 2 months. I said, "What do I do?" Well, I knew sales, so I knew what I had, right? So many people want everything to be perfect. No, start with what you have, and as you start with what you have, then the next steps will unfold. It's kind of like driving at night. You're in your vehicle. What kind of car do you drive, Dr. Kimberly?
Um, well, I drive a Jeep Grand Cherokee and a Lexus 350, like both SUVs.
Yeah, so we'll just say you're in your Lexus. Your Lexus at night is going to get you from where you're at to the grocery store if you need to go buy milk or some groceries.
Hmm.
But it's not going to light up the whole path.
No.
You're going to trust the fact that your Lexus is going to give you 30 to 40 feet of light, and then when you need more light as you keep moving forward, it's going to light up the rest of the pathway. And that's the way it worked for me. Is I just kept going forward. I put a sales training manual together, went and did what I had to do. I started doing sales trainings, knocking on doors. Then I went to John Maxwell. It didn't really work out the way I thought because they don't they it what I got from John Maxwell was like, wow, I can be an author. That's what I really took away from being there around the environment with the people. So it expanded me in some capacity, and I just never looked back. And one thing led to another, but you got to be willing to bet on yourself, ladies and gentlemen, because if you think that it's going to come to you free without a financial investment, you're mistaken. And if you're looking for free, maybe that's your problem. Maybe that's why you're stuck because free is not going to get you to your dreams.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I'm just curious, how long before your wife started believing in you, started like she was all of a sudden saying, "Oh yeah, I think this is gonna work," when she started to believe?
I would say maybe a year. And I don't say that because she wasn't supportive. She was going through her own journey. She had a double mastectomy. As soon as she had that, they found some other type of cancer of skin on the breast on the outside. She had another major surgery. So like back to back within, I would say 6 week period, give or take, she had three major surgeries. So
Mm.
it was a lot. And then she had some other surgeries. And then, like I said, she had drains, tubes coming out of her. So it wasn't that she didn't want to believe. I think she thought I was crazy, but I think she was just going through her own depression and finding, right? As a woman, you have a C cup and now you have no breast. So you're trying to find your identity. So I think it didn't really hit her till later on, down months down the road. But I think for me, I just believed it. I just kept going forward. And my older daughter, she thought I was like lost it, right? Dad's going through a phase, right? Motivational speaker at 44, like, come on, man. But I think out of all my family, my son's the only one that really believed in me. He kind of, I could see it, right? He would talk to me, he goes, Dad, you can do it. So it was about the first year afterwards, and then I trained. My big break came. See, because sometimes I want your audience to understand this. Everybody wants the answers up front, like I said, but you don't realize how much wisdom and how much knowledge and how much value you bring, ladies and gentlemen, from everything you've done in life. You see, because I had been very successful throughout my whole career in life, but I just didn't see it. And once I started to really take a moment to just sit with Daniel and see, like, man, I had 100 employees. I know sales. I guess I was a good leader because we were making millions for the dealership, and we had a winning team, right? We were one of the top Chevrolet teams. So I know how to build a team. I know how to lead. I know how to communicate. I know sales. Man, maybe I can speak on these things. And next thing you know, voila! I did a big training for the United States Air Force. If you go to my website on the computer,
Mhm.
I've never changed the video because over 98% of speakers cannot say they ever trained the United States Air Force or any military. And I have.
Mhm.
And it was a big break that God opened up for me. And I just, once that door opened up, that was my motto. I say, Dr. Kimberly, if I can add value to the United States Air Force, I can add value to your organization. So here, sign on the dotted line. And as they say in show business, the rest is history.
That's a great selling point. You can't get much better than that.
Yeah. And I've never changed the video because it's like, what's going to top? I don't care if you're John Maxwell, right? I've shared to stay with John Maxwell. It doesn't matter. He ain't the United States Air Force.
That is so true. So, just looking back at your experience in sales, if someone was new and they're going into sales, and I think all sales takes some experience. You don't just walk in and just be a good salesperson most of the time. Um, what would be your advice to that person?
I think you have to get the persona that sales is bad out of you. You have to get that belief that sales is a negative thing and it's not, because we're selling every day. I mean, I had to sell you to get on your show, right? I mean, it's and it's not a bad thing, right? Well, is he gonna add value? You have to sell yourself when you go apply for a job, or like I just said, I had to sell myself to other organizations. And how do you do that? Because you have to understand that you bring value. So I think first of all is you got to get that if you have a beliefs within deep down in your core that sales is bad and sales is a negative thing, well, then you're never going to succeed in business. And I truly believe that's a huge reason, Dr. Kimberly, why 90% of businesses go out of business within the first year. And then within the next 5 years, most of those businesses are out of business too because they don't know how to sell. They don't have a sales process. They don't have a follow-up process. They don't know how to communicate. And we all know this. We learned it in 2020 that if there's no sales, there's no what? There's no revenue. If there's no revenue, I don't care how great your food is, how amazing your salon is. If there's no revenue, you can't keep the doors open.
Mhm. That's so true. In fact, I was talking to a fellow optometrist today, and optometrists are eye doctors for people who don't know what that word. But I was talking to a fellow optometrist, and she actually is selling the software to other optometrists. And she said, it's such a hard sell because optometrists are really good at being doctors, but most of them are not so good at business. And I remarked, yes, if there wasn't insurance driving you to that particular doctor's office, I think 75% of them would go out of business if they didn't have the insurance driving it because they don't know how to market. They don't know how to bring patients in. They're really, really good doctors, but they don't know how to sell.
Yeah. Well, I wish I just did a big training here this past weekend in Orlando. A huge, huge it was for the dental field and 1,000 people there and you could hear the dentists that had been there for the first time. And you can tell that their belief isn't right. They teach you how to work on teeth. It's like a pasture. They don't teach you how to be a businessman, but you're a pasture. You're still a business. And I think that's a huge mistake that a lot of nonprofits say is, well, I'm a nonprofit. So right away, you're right. You're devaluing yourself. Well, no, a business is a business, whether it's for profit or nonprofit. You got to run it the same. But most people, they don't understand that. And it's like the dentists that were there. They no, well, yes, you're a great dentist, but okay, what's your high ticket item that you can sell? Because people need dentures, people need implants, people need full arches. And why are you gonna just try to make $10 with a free cleaning when you can sell an arch, learn a higher skill, learn how to sell this $25,000 product. And now, as a dentist, as a business owner, as a dentist, now you can offer more jobs, right, to people around you. And because now that you have a whole, not just you, but a whole sales team of training them to offer these services because people need it. Like if you don't have your teeth, you're never gonna smile.
Mhm.
And I was alarmed that there's millions and millions of people that need just full arches because they're embarrassed of their smile.
Mhm. That's true. Yeah, that reminds me. You've probably seen it. Other people probably seen it on YouTube. These commercials where these people's teeth are so, I mean, almost not even there. And then they put these new teeth on in 24 to 48 hours and they look like a brand new person.
Yes, because your confidence goes up. And another thing that you need in sales, you need to have confidence. Like before anybody buys any product, before they buy any service from you, they're buying you. They're buying you, the sales professional. They're buying you, the business owner. They're buying you, your charisma, your energy, what you're bringing to the table. And so many people, they come in flat to a meeting, they come in flat to a presentation, and they wonder why. Well, why did they go with the other organization? Well, because maybe your sales, you were stinking at sales right at that day, and you didn't believe, and you have to be ready and just know that they're buying your charisma, your smile, your heart. They can feel that from you.
Mhm. And what's the best way to connect with uh clients, um, customers?
Just sharing stories. I think the problem that a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs make is they want to vomit all their information. And you can't vomit. It's like, okay, Dr. Kimberly, and a great example, we do this big corporate training where we show people, right? When you're communicating, this is the way it usually happens. Hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing great. Well, how's your day going? And they put the conversation back on you. So Dr. Kimberly, you would keep talking and talking. No, right? We'll just say, right, I meet you for the first time. We're at this event, and I'm like, hey, Dr. Kimberly, how you doing? And you ask me, well, Daniel, how you doing? I'd be like, oh, I'm doing great. But you know what? Enough about me. I want to know about more about you. And I push the conversation back on you because in order to help you, I gotta find out, okay, what is it about Dr. Kimberly that maybe she needs help in? Because the truth is, money exchanges hands when problems are solved.
Mhm.
And if you can solve a person's problems, let me tell you, they don't mind paying you because people want their problems solved. So you got to learn how to deflect not deflect, but you have to learn how to push the conversation back on the person and not talk about you, talk about them. And I think the biggest problem is as sales professionals, we want to talk about us, and that's the biggest mistake you can make. You got to learn how to push the conversation back on the other person's.
Mhm. And this might be like a slight distinction, but I know when you're having a conversation with somebody, you're having the conversation, first of all, to even see if there's an opportunity for a sale.
Yeah.
So how do you know that there's an opportunity for a sale compared to, like you said, you don't want to vomit your information on somebody right away. So you're having a conversation and you're like, you're trying to be a detective and find out, okay, is there a sale here? Is there something I can help this person with?
I think the biggest problem most salespeople don't know how to practice active listening. You have to practice active listening. If you're listening just to react, if you're listening just to respond, like whether you're reacting or responding, you're not listening with any intention of listening. And as a coach, I can say this because I have to listen to my clients. Like, okay, well, half the time they don't know what's going on, what's wrong with them when we're on a coaching call. So it's my job to practice active listening and really, okay. So when I'm talking to a person at an event, a potential prospect, I truly listen because if I'm looking at you here, then you can sense that and
Mhm.
you'll open up to me. But if I'm looking at you here and then I look over your shoulder, well, who's over there? What? And it's like, well, hey, Daniel, I'm right here. I'm Dr. Kimberly. Like it's like disrespect.
Uh-huh.
And I see that over and over again. And it's like, because you're looking for the next big well. Okay, well, where's the next big well at? No, like you got to give people the time, and I truly believe that I've learned this, that I don't fight the first people that I meet, because like attracts like. You attract who you are. You don't attract what you want, you attract who you are. So when I put out that intention that I'm this person that can bring value, well, I'm going to attract people that are of value that need help also.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So when you're working with people in a coaching situation, what do they come to you for? I'm understanding it's not just sales, it's mindset, it's some other things. So what do people come to see you for, and how do you work with them?
Well, so by nature, I'm two things. I'm an executive coach and a business coach. And then when we wrote our book, The Makings of a Millionaire Mind for Business, because a lot of business owners think like an employee, it opened up even a grander scale of coaching. So I don't want to say I can coach everything, but I can coach executives, which is guiding them at that higher level because they don't have anybody to talk to. And a great example, one of our amazing clients, they were doing phenomenal in business. I mean, they were succeeding. But he goes, man, I don't know what you have, but I need your help. You have something I need. They went from a $19 million a year to the following year they made over 40 million.
That's
And
huge.
something inside of them had to unlock. Because right, the leader of that organization is the lid for that business. And as the leader expands and opens up, well, then if things flow better. So it's really, as an executive coach, as a business coach, I understand business, I can see process, I can see that, but a lot of times it has nothing to do with the business aspect, which I definitely understand sales process and all that about business. I can definitely coach somebody from a startup up, right, with nothing on at all. But what I love is when people come to me and they don't realize that your business is failing because you're the problem. And it's men and women. We talked about that a little bit. Overachievers trying to prove themselves, scaring everybody off in their business, their employees. Or the truth is, there's a lot of men and women that walk in shame, guilt, and resentment, and that's going to hinder your business because that's the environment you're going to create. So there's so many aspects, but my main core is executive coaching and business coaching, and I love business because I understand business. I've had 100 employees. I've ran multi-million-dollar organizations. I that's kind of my jam. But above that, I really love helping the leader himself or the business owner himself because most of the time he doesn't even realize he has his own blind spots, right? If he's in the picture, he can't see himself, so he doesn't know what's wrong with him. And I'm like, dude, you got mud on your nose, you got to clean it off. And the mud's been there for 3 years and they don't realize it because no one's ever, right? He's the owner. Who's
Uh-huh.
gonna tell him?
Hmm.
And the truth is this, as a business coach, I've had several conversations, right? Because by God's grace, we've built $1 million organization and we've hit some great milestones, and we have a great organization where now a lot of these clients that we attract are millionaires and multimillionaires, and nobody tells them the truth sometimes because they're the owner, they're the boss to say. And I mean, Dr. Kimberly, did you hire me to make you feel good, or did you hire me to tell you the truth? Well, what do you mean? Well, simple as that. Well, to tell me the truth to help me. Okay, well then you're the problem. You need to change. And of course, the first one or two times, like, "Ugh," right?
Right.
But and I've even said it. If you're gonna fire me. But this is why right? There's no refund. You're not gonna get your money back. But
Hmm.
this is you're the issue. But most of those people are high levels. They understand it. And I think out of all the amazing clients I've had, there was one that I fired myself because it just wasn't cohesive, right? We weren't in alignment, and one person let me go because every time well, when I with somebody, I always pray before we start because the wisdom isn't from me, the wisdom is from God.
Hmm.
And one executive was like, "Are you gonna do that all the time?" I'm like, "Do what?" Like that, like pray. I'm like, "Well, dude, we prayed in our discovery session. Like, what? You didn't complain then." He goes, "Well, I didn't think you were gonna do it all the time." I'm like, "So you know what? Maybe I'm not the right coach for you." And it is what it is.
Hmm. And I wanted to ask about that. So, you had that whisper, God telling you change direction, after you had this time of reflection. So, if people want to hear the voice of God, a lot of people say, well, how do you hear that? Or, I know some people hear it audibly, some people hear it in their head, or they just have a feeling. But how do you actually get in connection so that you can hear that voice?
Well, God, I can say this, and I'm not crazy, but God still speaks, right? People talk about prayer, and prayer is not a human being speaking to a person, speaking to God. I mean, like me and you, this is prayer. We're having a conversation, and that's all that prayer is. But religion has taught us that prayer is one way, and just like we have a request, and it's not a request of saying Hail Mary or Our Father or whatever prayer you want to say. It's like, no, it's conversation. So the problem is, as human beings, right? There's two problems that block this. Is that we believe that we're a physical body trying to figure out this human, this spiritual world, right? We're a human being in this physical world trying to figure out this spiritual world. And no, we're actually a spiritual being trying to figure out the human body that we're living in this human world. It's vice versa. You got to live from the inside out, not from the outside in. And too many people, 98% of us, we live from the outside in, so we're never going to hear God's voice because we allow circumstances and situations to overtake us, to run our lives. But when you live from the inside out and you start spending time in prayer with God, and I'm going to be specific here, it's accepting Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, and you open up that veil to communication. And there's many times that I'll sit there in silence, just waiting for Him to speak. And sometimes it's in a vision, sometimes it's a voice, sometimes I'll read a scripture and it illuminates, like it's louder than loud. And but He definitely speaks. It's just you gotta I'm gonna sum it up in one word, and most people ain't willing to do this. You have to consecrate yourself. And when you consecrate yourself and you spend time with our Creator, which is Almighty God, and you talk to Him and just like this, Papa, I love you, conversation. And then when you worship Him and then you sit still, you're going to hear His voice. And it does take time. It's not something that you're going to go on one day and master, right? And because you can't, you're going to have to, it's like this, right? If I was to get to know Dr. Kimberly more, we'd have a friendship, and you're going to tell me a couple of things. But then the more time we spend together, the more intimate our friendship gets, and the fact that you can trust me as a true friend. That's what I mean by intimacy. It's like, well, now, Daniel, hey, you know what? I have this problem. I need help. So you're gonna open up. You're gonna be authentic at that point, and that's the way it is with God, right? The more God sees, like, you know what, your heart's changing. Because my heart, man, I look at my journey 7 years ago, Dr. Kimberly, and I had a heart of stone in many areas. I had a heart of stone. I didn't care. I didn't see that. But and I even said this one time because my dad, I'm 51, and my dad died when I was 26 years old. And for like 7, 8 years, I was like devout Christian, spending time with God. And then somewhere along the line, when I turned in my 40s, I kind of backslid and 37, 38. And I remember one time crying to my wife and I said, you know what? I don't hear from God anymore. And this is what she told me. She says, Dan, don't get mad at me, but how can you if you don't spend time with them anymore? So you got to spend time with somebody to know them and to know their voice.
Mhm.
And many people nowadays, they'll never hear the voice of God because they don't want to spend time with them.
Yeah. Do you have certain, like some people have certain morning routines or evening routines, things that keep you centered, keep your eyes on God, keep you going in the direction you want to go?
So for me, what I do is I wake up in the morning. I always try to give thanks, and I don't do it every morning. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I would say out of the 7 days, probably 5 or 6, I'll say just thank you, right? Some gratitude. Thank you, God, that I'm alive. And I'll wake up, and if I'm in a hotel, I was just in Orlando, I'll wake up and just put on a worship song and start worshiping Him. And there's times that I wake up and I'll do my affirmations as part of my morning routine and giving thanks. And then after I'm done with my affirmations, which is about 25 minutes, my vision board, I go into prayer for about 45 minutes, give or take. Sometimes are longer, sometimes are less, but what I always do is I always pray, so, put on some type of worship song before I pray, just to invite the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit is real. And then next thing you know, it's like I just sit there and just let the Spirit move through me, and it's amazing. And sometimes I'll read a scripture, or I'll read as I'm there in that meditation. It just depends. And a lot sometimes I'll pray with my wife. Lately, we've been praying together, so God will speak through her. And but you have to give yourself time with Him, because I've learned that when I do that, that's where the creative juices, right? I would love to give you the idea that Millionaire Mind, a book of this caliber, oh man, I didn't do anything. The books that we have, the book publishing company, all these concepts that we come up for our authors, all these concepts we come up for our speakers, right? These are all gifts from God. The concept becomes their book title, their subtitle. The book title becomes their coaching program. Their coaching program becomes what they speak on. And I wish I could say like Daniel did it. No, like the book back here, The Brain Changer, that was a God idea. Like the brain changer, change your brain, change your results. And I would have never thought of that, but most people have the wrong concept, and they wonder why their business or coaching business, their brand stinks, because we have a bad concept, man.
It is so, so true. So, if people wanted to connect with you, where do they find you? Your books, tell us about your books and your services.
Yeah, so our book to fame is The Makings of a Millionaire Mind. Uh, that's me, Daniel Gomez, and I love helping people. And with The Makings of a Millionaire Mind, it's on Audible, it's on Amazon, and you can also go to our website, themakingsofamillionairemind.com. We have an online program, 27 powerful courses, 27 powerful modules that it's what we're going to do for your show here, Dr. Kimberly, is we're going to give them a scholarship, and that way their investment is only $997, lifetime access. They usually have to pay double for that for the lifetime access, because but we believe in helping people. And my brand, as you can see, is Daniel Gomez Inspires. You can find me on Instagram. But I would say this: I want to do this for your community. Text the word millionaire. That's millionaire to 210-942-5059. That's 210-942-5059. Text the word millionaire, lowercase, no exclamation point, just millionaire. And I'm going to give your audience a free gift of our millionaire PDF. And that's just my way of saying thank you for being here with us. And what I would also love to do for your audience is this. I'm going to give my email. I never really do this, but I just feel this connection with you. Is my email is daniel@danielgomezspeaker.com. That's daniel@danielgomezspeaker.com. And put it on the subject line, Dr. Kimberly, and you're going to get a complimentary 45-minute discovery session with me at no cost, because I want to pour back into your community, Dr. Kimberly. And that was daniel@danielgomezspeaker.com. Put in the subject line, Dr. Kimberly, and your audience is going to get a complimentary 45-minute discovery session and see what I can help them unlock in that moment.
All right. I'm writing this down because I have to put that in the show notes so people can find it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much. That is a beautiful, beautiful gift. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. I mean, I've learned, right, as my heart has changed, to be honest with you, my heart wasn't always as generous, and life can beat up people. And I think there's just a lot of people out there that are beat up, that are hurt, wounded. And the thing is this, not the sad part, but the truth is, it's sad because most of them don't know they're hurt. and and right, they cope with life through alcohol, through food, through women, through men, through affairs, through everything that's not going to help them, but they don't even realize that they have an issue. And that's what I love to do when we speak all over the world. Like we go deep, because people say, well, you're different. What is it about you? Right? Because I'll speak on business and I mean, I just have a way of, I think right. One of the masters that I've learned from is John Maxwell. He takes a Sunday sermon and he speaks on the same sermon in business. And it's like people don't even realize that. Well, I take the principles of God and I put them into business, and the Holy Spirit moves through that, and they don't even know what's going on. They're like, "What's different?" When since they asked me that, now they can't sue me because you asked me that.
Uh-huh. That's beautiful. Well, I have a personal question for you. What gives
Yeah, go.
the most happiness and fulfillment in your life at this point?
It's really helping people succeed. It's really helping them see their true potential, and taking a person like a business owner, small business owner named Lewis. They didn't dream bigger, they didn't think bigger, and he came to our Millionaire Mind boot camp. We have it twice a year. We're having our next one November 22nd, 23rd here in San Antonio. People come in from all over the country, and it's a 2-day intensive boot camp. And by Lewis coming to that, he ended up buying a new truck. His business has grown. He raised his prices. He's not as stressed out as he was, and now he has a bigger vision for his life, for his family. And that's what it's about, because sometimes the little guy gets overlooked, and we all need help at some point in our lives. That's the meaning of true fulfillment for me.
Beautiful. Thank you. And thanks for being on the podcast today and being very vulnerable and talking about your faith. Thank you so much.
No, I mean, thank you for having me. It's been a great pleasure. I mean, it's people need help, and people, you're never too busy to lend a helping hand. I think so many times people reach a level of success and they've never had it, and two things either happen, right? Two things either happen. They either self-sabotage because they can't handle that, right? They don't have the capacity to handle it, or vice versa. They get big-headed and they think they Mr. Know-it-all, Miss Know-it-all, and they don't help anybody. Like, no, like you got to understand, like something I talk about in my book, that think about this. One of the biggest, and I'll challenge anybody, right? I'll challenge somebody in a good debate. People say money doesn't change you. They're lying. They're lying because they've never had money. How do they know?
Mhm.
How can a broke person, right? If almost 90% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and most Americans don't have money in a savings account, how can people say that money doesn't change you when most of those people are broke and they've never experienced what it is to have $100,000 in the bank, much less $250,000 in the bank, much less $1 million in the bank?
Mhm.
There's a frequency that goes with that. So people say stuff because everybody else says it. Oh, but yeah, it does change you. You know how? Because I had to protect my heart as God was growing us, right? If you and I say that because the moment that the first time I ever had $140,000 check in my hand, Dr. Lambert, I was like freaking. I was like a hot potato, honey. Let's go deposit it, honey. Like because it has this energy to it. Because money is energy. There's a frequency behind that amount of success. And she's like, I go, she goes, let's go and then we get to the bank and we're at the drive-through, and the line is going like molasses. I'm like, well, damn, like what's like just because you're not used to having that much wealth in you at one time. And the truth is, $140,000 is not a lot of money, but at one time, it's like, uh-oh, if you've never had it, it's gonna shake you up a little bit. And that's what people don't understand. So when they say money doesn't change you, they don't know. They don't say that. Right? It doesn't change you in certain areas, but you do got to protect your heart on the journey, because sometimes you can think it's you doing it and it's not you, it's God.
Mhm. Yeah. I love that. Love that. So I have one last question before we finish.
Yes, ma'am.
What is your best advice on living an incredible, amazing life?
My best advice is put God first. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. I have failed over and over, and I've wanted to give up, but by the grace of God, He brings me back up, and I wouldn't be where I'm at. When I started my business, This was my second go around in business. When I was younger, we had a business. It didn't fail, but we closed it down, and we had that for about a year. And this time around, when I really made God the CEO of my business, and then I put family and then business last, everything just exponentially exploded. And the peace that I have, right? Like being here in this office, another, right? More overhead,
Mhm.
more computers. Like we have a big nut that we pay every month. It's a lot. And I remember my son walking in one day and saying, Dad, like, what's that? I was doing an expense report. I go, that's what we paid. This was several years ago. He goes, Dad, you pay $20,000 more than 20,000 a month. I'm like, yeah, that's our monthly expenses. How do you sleep? I'm like, you know what, son? God's got it. And that was before we have our corporate office now. But I've just learned that you either trust God or you don't. And sometimes, yes, I want to punch God in the gut and say, God, where you at? Hurry up. And of course, I would never punch God, forgive me, Lord, but I'm just trying to get the point across. It's like, but God will show up at the right time and never let you down.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Daniel.
You're welcome, Dr. Kimberly. It's been such an honor. Just thank you for being here allow me to be here with you on your show. It's been a great blessing.
All right. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, everybody.